First tonight, Donald Trump has again said the US will walk away from efforts to end the war in Ukraine if there is no progress in negotiations between Russia and Kyiv. He was speaking at the White House after a call with President Putin, which he said had gone very well. The Kremlin has said only that it's ready to work on a memorandum and a possible future of peace.
First, my little conversation with a nice gentleman named Vladimir Putin. But we had a good talk, and I think that progress is being made. 5,000 young soldiers are being killed every single week on average. You know, I was talking to, as I said, President Putin for 2.5 hours. That was being very seriously listened to. We don't like what's happening. We don't like that we should have ever been involved. Would have never happened. But we're respected again as a country.
Коллеги просили сказать несколько слов о результатах.
Your colleagues have asked me to say a few words about the results of our phone call with the U.S. President. Indeed, this phone call took place. It lasted over 2 hours. I would like to note that it was very substantial and highly honest, and overall, in this regard, very useful. The question, of course, is whether the Russian and Ukrainian sides will show maximum commitment to peace and find compromises that would satisfy all parties. At the same time, I would like to note that Russia's position is clear and that the most important thing for us is to eliminate the root causes of this crisis.
Компромиссы, которые бы устроили все стороны.
President Putin and before him President Trump. Well, President Zelensky has accused Russia of trying to buy time to continue with the war in Ukraine. His comments come after President Trump said a phone conversation with Vladimir Putin had gone very well, but didn't explain what form the next peace talks would take. In a post on social media, Mr. Zelensky said Kyiv was ready for any negotiation format that would bring an end to the conflict.
Thirdly, I asked him, Trump, before his conversation with Putin not to make decisions about Ukraine without us. These are matters of principle for us and very important. And we agreed that we would have contact after his conversation with Putin. If Russia sets conditions for withdrawing our troops from our land, it means that they do not want a ceasefire and do not want the war to end. Because they clearly understand that Ukraine will not do this. If you ask questions in advance to which you already know the answer, and it will not be positive, it means that you definitely do not want a result. Moreover, there will be another package. Of course, if there is no ceasefire on the Russian side, there will be a strong European package. As for the US package, it's a different story. Here we need to work hard together with the United States of America to ensure that they impose appropriate sanctions at some point, when they can.
Що стосується пакета Сполучених Штатів Америки.
President Zelensky. Well, for more on these stories, let's speak now to the international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz, who joins me on the line from London. Great to see you, Dr. Laskiewicz. I don't know how much of the readout of that phone call between Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin that you've seen, but many analysts are saying it was an opportunity for President Trump to put pressure on Mr. Putin to compromise, and that he failed to do so. Do you agree?
That is a very interesting comment, actually, because the implication is that President Donald Trump is again like President Joe Biden, entirely on Ukraine's side. But that is not the case as far as I can tell. President Trump has accepted some of the Russian arguments, and therefore he put no pressure on President Putin because, to be honest, he doesn't actually want to put pressure on either side. He just wants a ceasefire in the sense of a permanent truce and the war to stop. And from that point of view, the criticisms are nothing more than if you like, the Western side, the European Ukrainian side, are complaining that America is not doing what it used to do, is not fully supporting them, which is, we knew that before. So from that point of view, the criticism is odious, really.
And, I mean, it appears as if that phone call, I mean, after that phone call, listening to Donald Trump, it sounded as if he's stepping back from his role as a potential broker. I mean, why do you think that might be?
To be honest, I think he feels frustrated that his point that this war is costing lives and is unnecessary is not being really supported by either side. It is perfectly true President Putin, President Zelensky keep mouthing on about there should be a peace, but they've made no compromises as far as I can tell in either of their negotiating stances, and therefore there will be no peace. And President Donald Trump is, I think, arriving at the conclusion that short of putting extreme pressure on both sides, nothing's going to happen, and therefore his time could be spent better elsewhere. He has not, please note, as it gone, and so it remains a threat, but it's by no means an empty threat. And judging by everything that's been said, I honestly think he will walk away for some time because I don't see any progress being made.
And, I mean, we all seem to think of President Trump as a rather impatient, perhaps, I don't know, somebody who's got a short fuse. I mean, the fighting, of course, continuing in Ukraine, the negotiations likely to be protracted, lots of conditions and rabbit holes that they'll run down. I mean, is that likely to tire Mr. Putin? I mean, Mr. Trump, not Putin, sorry.
Oh, it will certainly tire Donald Trump. He's a businessman. He likes fast results. He's American. America speaks in terms of nanoseconds. And to be quite honest, with the Russians, even if the Russians were 100% committed to peace, it could easily take a year for the negotiations to bear fruit. The Russians simply do not do things quickly. They're meticulous. They cross-check. They look after their interests. And nothing is ever done quickly in Russia. It just isn't possible. As for Ukraine, they have their quite clear rules, quite clear demands. And the only thing that ever emerges out of Ukraine is that they want Russia to be pressurized to accept the Ukrainian point of view, which is never going to happen, because there's a limit to how much pressure you can put on Russia. For example, the Europeans are now talking about putting more sanctions on Russia. To be honest, I doubt whether President Putin even cares what they're doing. And so from that point of view, all that's happening is, well, more of the same. We've had it for 3 years now, and it's unlikely to stop soon.
Of course, you mentioned the Europeans. I'd almost forgotten that they're supposed to be players in all of this. I mean, do you think European leaders have still a key role to play here, especially, for instance, the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who has been able to talk to President Trump and certainly appears able to move him to some extent to flip the script?
To be honest, the Europeans have no key role to play. The sanctions they want to impose, assuming they're going to impose them, are irrelevant. I repeat again, from what I said on day one of the war publicly, sanctions are next to useless. It's arms that are going to change it. Europe has no arms which are going to change anything. As for the Prime Minister, Starmer here in England, sure, he has a line to President Donald Trump. But you see, a long time ago, President Donald Trump is America first. He's simply not going to read the script and follow it as Keir Starmer wants. What is true is he will listen to Keir Starmer, which is sometimes more than as far as I can tell, is willing to do with the Europeans. And therefore, he will take on board the points that are being made. But as for changing his mind as a result, no. That all depends on what he perceives to be American interests. And right now, if he can't get peace, he might as well spend his time and money elsewhere.
So do you think an end to the conflict in Ukraine is any nearer, or is a settlement as unlikely as it's ever been?
To be quite honest, I think it's unlikely as it's ever been. All that happens to President Donald Trump is he gets a minor flurry of activity, the mouthing off of some pleasant words like we're all looking for peace and willing to compromise. But nothing's going to happen. The fighting will continue, and it's bound to continue for some time. Both sides want to fight. It's by no means the first time an American has attempted to intercede in a war. In World War I, Henry Ford chartered a peace ship, which went to Germany and England, but no one wanted to know because they wanted to carry on fighting and win. And this is basically what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, and therefore it will carry on, it will be as before, and therefore, in that point of view, We are here with this war for some time, which hopefully will not escalate any further, either geographically towards Poland or in terms of the military hardware used, which is unfortunately what I predicted in my books, and let us hope it never occurs.
I mean, what's your assessment of the military strength of Russia at the moment? I mean, because everything seems to be rather inching forward. I mean, that suggests that they themselves are also tiring out and possibly running out of ammunition.
My personal reading of the Russian situation is as follows. They regard Ukraine as a part of Russia, misled by neo-Nazis, to be exact. They regard the Baltic states as a part of Russia, because that's the old USSR, and please note, the old Tsarist Russia too. And therefore they will not use, I predicted that will not use any non-conventional arms like nukes or chemical weapons. They did use a little bit of chemicals, but it wasn't on a serious or enormous scale. And therefore they have a problem in winning, because Ukraine has access to very good Western arms. It all hinges, therefore, on whether America walks away or not. If America walks away in the sense it will not supply arms to Ukraine, then Russia has a very good chance of making substantial progress. If not, as it is unable and unwilling to use its non-conventional arms, it will carry on inching forward.
Thank you, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz, as always. Dr. Laskiewicz is an international affairs analyst. He was talking to me on the line there from London.